Hey folks, I'm Chris and I'm your Commander Mechanic. Freshly revealed, we have the new precons from Duskmourn, and today we're looking at Miracle Worker, the black, white, and blue deck focusing on enchantments. While White Enchantress is nothing new, this color combination, seeing this theme outside of Zur the Enchanter, is very interesting. And the box legend for the deck is Aminatou, Veil Piercer, freshly desparked from the war with Phyrexia. She's now a 4-mana 2/4 human wizard that reads, at the beginning of your upkeep, surveil 2, meaning you look at the top 2 cards of your library and can put any number of them into your graveyard and the rest on top of your library. Each enchantment card in your hand has Miracle. Its Miracle cost is equal to the mana cost reduced by 4. You can cast this card for its Miracle cost when you draw it if it's the first card you drew this turn. And the reason why it's Miracle from your hand is because by the time you draw it, it is in your hand. Here, we can see a classic case of a passive commander. A commander that's not going to be attacking unless absolutely necessary with no combat prowess at all. But as long as she stays on the board, she helps you with your card quality each turn and gives you some ways to cheat out big, splashy enchantments. This is a perfect commander to get Omniscience or a Mind's Dilation into play early and start spiraling out of control, and she does it well. A deck led by Aminatou wants plenty of enchantments and enchantment creatures, and lots of ways to manipulate the top deck of your library and draw spells on other players' turns. Remember, Miracle is the first card you draw each turn, and it ignores timing restrictions as well, so feel free to flash in that Sigil of the Empty Throne on an opponent's turn. But Aminatou isn't the only new commander in the deck. We also have the new Master of Keys, a legendary enchantment creature. This flying 3/3 horror costs X, black, white, blue, and reads, when the Master of Keys enters, put X +1/+1 counters on it and mill twice X cards. Each enchantment card in your graveyard has Escape. The Escape cost is equal to the card's mana cost plus exile 3 other cards from your graveyard. We can immediately see what the Master here wants to do differently from Aminatou. While Aminatou wants us to be drawing cards regularly and playing big enchantments from the top of our library, the Master wants us to be filling our graveyard and recasting enchantments. I immediately think that the Master is going to be a lot better in an Enchantress deck focusing on auras rather than larger enchantments, as this gives us a great way to ensure your auras aren't gone too soon and have some longevity to them. Escaping enchantments isn't cheap either. You have to pay the whole mana cost and exile 3 other cards from your graveyard, so a deck with him at the helm may not want the same big, splashy enchantments Aminatou does, but rather the annoying must-kill enchantments that are lower mana value with bigger impact on the game. Imagine packing his deck with Animate Dead effects or Prison Realm, so you always have a way to remove creatures or bring back big, scary threats. If anything, the Master makes sure your enchantments are never gone forever. A great advantage. Let's take a look at which of these commanders are better to build around and what cards we want to cut in order to add or tune it to be a cohesive deck. If you're looking to pick up the cards to build this deck yourself, check out my sponsor Card Trader. Card Trader is one of the world's largest global networks on buying or selling cards. They make it easy to find cards at the cheapest prices from all around the world, in languages you're looking for and in the treatments that you're looking for. For 5% off your first order, use my promo code MECHANIC. Check out the link in the description for more. So, which of these commanders makes for a better deck? Personally, I'm more intrigued by Aminatou. She gives us the potential to cheat out some big nasty enchantments very quickly, and has some clear areas we can tweak to shift the entire deck in a more narrowed direction. But that's not to say the deck doesn't have some amazing new cards to experiment with. Personally, I'm excited for cards like Fear of Sleep Paralysis. This 6-mana enchantment creature is exactly what we want to be cheating out with Aminatou. It's a 6/6 flyer that has the Eerie ability. Whenever Fear of Sleep Paralysis or another enchantment you control enters, and whenever you fully unlock a room card, tap up to 1 target creature and put a stun counter on it. Additionally, it says stun counters can't be removed from permanents your opponents control, meaning they just stay tapped permanently. Stun counters are a relatively new addition to Magic, so seeing a card that already modifies how they work is incredibly interesting, and in a deck all about enchantments, this is a way to ensure your opponent's creatures remain tapped forever. It's a strong and flavorful new card that fits in more decks than just this one. In fact, I'd love to see it in a Hilda of the Icy Crown deck for maximum benefit. Also new to the deck is Redress Fate, an effect we've seen before with a new twist. Much like an Open the Vault style card, this one returns all artifacts and enchantments from your graveyard to the battlefield, but the twist on this is that you can Miracle it for 4 mana, making it a pseudo replenish. In a deck where we're either surveilling cards into the graveyard or milling them there, this is a powerful way to get a few enchantments into play with big mana costs. Getting lucky and hitting a few enchantments, then setting up the Miracle on this as early as turns 4 or 5 could mean 15 plus mana worth of enchantments onto the battlefield. I can also see this being very versatile despite the hard cast cost being prohibitively high at 8 mana. It's a powerful effect, but requires the right deck and the right circumstances. Also unique to this deck are several of the room cards, enchantments with multiple parts and multiple effects, and each of these have powerful capabilities like curiosity effects or paying life for spells. But I want to highlight a downside of rooms in that we can't really cheat them into play. A room that doesn't have mana cast for it enters with both rooms locked, meaning it's an enchantment in play that does nothing. So if we use the new Redress Fate and reanimate a bunch of rooms, they stay in play with no effect until we pay mana for one of their sides. The same goes for copying them. Using a copy enchantment on a room makes it enter with both sides locked, making it impossible to get free value from them. While the concept of rooms is very cool, and several of them are very, very strong, they exist without a way to exploit them, and it feels very bad that we don't have any loopholes to do so. Now lastly, what I think is one of the strongest new cards in the deck is Ancient Cellar-Spawn. On its surface, it's a 3 mana 3/3 horror that leans into demon, horror, and nightmare synergies by making them cost 1 less. But this enchantment creature also reads, whenever you cast a spell, if the amount of mana to cast that spell was less than its mana value, target opponent loses life equal to the difference. And that's where this starts to have some powerful applications. Free spells with this out are direct damage to your opponents. Casting a Deadly Rollick or a Force of Will with this out throws damage around like it's no one's business. And that means it has uses at low power and high power ends of the spectrum, fitting into CEDH decks as a way to get free damage for casting the many discounted and free spells in the format, and casual decks as an enabler for cute kindred strategies. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Cellar-Spawn show up in some competitive decks like Kest Dissident Mage as a way to get bonus value from free counterspells. Now let's look at how to solve some of the issues I have with the base deck list. Namely, we don't have nearly enough of the big splashy enchantments that Aminatou wants to cheat out. In the base list, we have one with the Multiverse, Shark Typhoon, and Extravagant Replication, which are all fantastic options. But apart from that, we don't have a lot of enchantments that make full use of our ability to discount enchantments by 4 whole mana. Cards in the base list like Sigil of the Empty Throne, Life Insurance, and Spirit Sister's Call all drop their 3 generic mana, but that's not the maximum benefit. As such, I want to go bigger, and I want to go splashier with our enchantments. So let's go all out with Mind's Dilation, Grave Betrayal, and Storm of Saruman. Getting any of these into play by turns 4 or 5 will cinch you the game fast, as the value they generate with your free spells, or free creatures, or free copies is just insane the longer they stay in play. I also want to solve the issue of there being very little deck fixing options in the list. Apart from Aminatou's Surveil, you need to make sure you have an enchantment in those top 2 cards, or the deck just stalls out. I want to buff that up. The default list has a few one-time options like Brainstorm, Brainstone, and Portent, but those are all one time. Let's get some ongoing value out of fixing our library. Adding in Soothsaying lets us look at plenty of cards on an ongoing basis, and even helps us if we get a big pocket of nothing by allowing us to shuffle our library too. This is one of the best ways, on a budget, to keep fixing the top of your deck. I also want to add Search for Azcanta into the deck too. Since it was errata to Surveil officially, it's a way to dig at least 1 card deeper with Aminatou out. With her out, it's a way to ensure that we're not drawing dead cards, since dumping an early high mana cost enchantment or creature into the graveyard means it isn't gone forever. Master of Keys is still in the list. There are also a few new cards from Duskmourn that should go into the deck, like Inquisitive Glimmer. Easy enough, this little guy helps discount our enchantment spells even more, and even if we have to hard cast them. It pairs well with Starfield Mystic, which is already in the base list. Entity Tracker is great redundancy in the list and a blue Enchantress effect, on top of the Mesa Enchantress already in the base list. These two alone will help fuel a lot of additional card draw in a deck this heavy with enchantments. And the new Enduring Curiosity is a good add along those same lines, letting us draw more cards on our turn and increase our ongoing value, while also being an enchantment creature for maximum synergies. And in fitting with other recent precons, I want to introduce a small infinite combo into the deck by adding 2 cards, Grim Guardian and Gremlin Tamer. These two on their own don't go infinite until we factor in Dusty Arcade, a new room in the default deck. Dusty Arcade makes all our non-land permanents and spells into enchantments, which is very handy for making every spell you draw first on each turn into a miracle with Aminatou. But with Gremlin Tamer, it creates an infinite loop of creating gremlins over and over, which are enchantments which trigger the Tamer. Well, I cover this combo in the short linked up top. Normally, this ends the game in a draw unless anyone can remove one of the pieces, but if we add in Grim Guardian, which drains opponents whenever an enchantment enters, well, that makes this combo lethal for the table. It might not be easy to pull off, but if you do, it's a good off switch to a long game of Commander. And we're starting to see these be more and more frequent in recent precons straight out of the box. In order to make room for some of these pieces, let's cut some of the cards that don't either make it easy to trigger Aminatou or that don't act as big payoffs to Miracle. First, with some of the new room cards that aren't necessary to our goal. Bottomless Pool / Locker Room and Cramped Vent / Access Maze are both little effect, big effect rooms, but neither of the big effects are really the kind of thing that makes sense to cheat out, either as a curiosity effect or by paying life for spells. I can see Access Maze being the best of the bunch, but with the spells that we're looking to cast, it may end up hurting us more than even our opponents would. And I want to axe and treat the Angels too. While it's okay if we miracle it, it's straight garbage if we don't. We want to miracle enchantments in this brew, not angels. And a few of the draw cards that don't set us up, like Read the Bones and Thirst for Meaning, have been replaced with more repeatable card draw and card quality pieces, so we don't need to waste time on these ideally. The new Phenomenon Investigators are cool, but their modes don't really point in the same direction of our deck's themes. There are a lot of places they can be useful, I'm certain of it, but it's not here in this brew. A few other creatures I'd cut, like Prognostic Sphinx and the new Metamorphosis Fanatic, are good cards but want homes apart from this deck. They aren't enchantment creatures and don't get the benefits of Aminatou's miracle ability or some of our cost discounts, and are harder to set up properly in this direction specifically. They have homes, but maybe not in this deck. Then, a couple of enchantment creatures, Nightmare Shepherd and Athreos, are getting cut too. While they are great enchantment creatures, they both care about creatures dying, and we can't control that in this deck. We don't have sacrifice outlets, and all of our removal is exile-based rather than destroy-based, so it does us no favors. I want to finish out the upgrades by cleaning up some of the lands, like removing the bounce lands and thriving lands. They don't do us any favors in the deck and can be replaced with basics. I do want to keep some of the Scry lands and Evolving Wilds because they, at the very least, can help us rearrange our library or shuffle away bad top decks. Now, if we want to add some real power to the deck, let's look at the upgrade. I'm going to recommend what is likely everyone's first recommendation, and that is Sensei's Divining Top. This is your first must-have if you're upgrading this brew because it allows you to fix the top of your deck and allows you to draw that card on demand. It's everything any deck that plays from the top of their library needs and should be your first big addition. The second one along these lines would need to be Scroll Rack, a reusable way to put big splashy enchantments you drew back on top of your deck to miracle it in response to a draw trigger. That's perfect for this deck and gives you unrivaled amounts of control for cheating these enchantments out. Other upgrades include anything that lets you draw a card on everyone else's turn, classics being Esper Sentinel, Rhystic Study, and Mystic Remora. These may not be everyone's favorite cards, but in a deck where you're rewarded for drawing at least one card each turn in order to miracle them into play, these are solid synergistic and utility inclusions. If you find yourself facing down aggro decks or not being able to stand up to attacking creatures, then Propaganda and Ghostly Prison are fine adds to supplement Sphere of Safety in the base list. They may be only a couple of bucks each, but they'll fit the deck's theme and do a ton of work. And lastly, if you're looking for more big splashy enchantments, then something like Virtue of Persistence is a great add. It'll be consistent value throughout the game, and if you can miracle it, it only costs 3 mana. It's a must-remove enchantment for your opponents. What do you think of this deck list out of the box? How does it hold up to the other Duskmourn Precons? And let me know in the comments, are you more excited to play Aminatou or the Master? And which are you planning on putting in the lead of the deck? You can find my full list with upgrades in the description at my sponsor, MOXFIELD. MOXFIELD is the best deck building platform in the world and makes it easy to check the changes made to this list with their history function. Check out my cuts and ads all in one place, and while you're there, be sure to follow my profile to never miss a brew. And be sure to check out Card Conduit. If you're looking to sell your cards, ship them unsorted to Card Conduit, where they'll assess your cards and get you the best prices. They keep a cut of the sales and send you the rest. Easy. Don't mess with multiple buy lists again, or person-to-person sales for a single card at a time. Sell it all with Card Conduit today. And while you're here, be sure to check out these other videos on the channel. If you were inspired to brew today, you have to hit that subscribe button. And as always, folks, good luck and have fun.